Πάμε να συνεχίσουμε. Θα καλέσω στο βήμα τον κύριο Alex Searle. You can come here now. He's the founder and CEO of Humble Meat.
Well, it's been a remarkable day. As I'm sure you are, I've been really impressed with the caliber of speakers, the way that everyone is engaging with the different topics. Not all very easy topics, and certainly no clear answers, but definitely some great questions and some good ways of looking at the future of how we're building businesses and how we're using state-of-the-art technology to be able to do that. I suppose today, before I introduce myself, what I'll be talking a little bit about is a combination of skills, if you like, because so far today we've spoken a lot about the technology, a lot about what AI can do for us, how we can leverage it, and how we can continue going in a certain direction with it, which I think in many ways is predictable, even though predictable is not a way that you would describe AI, certainly not in the long term. But at the same time, I think that today we focused a lot on the technology and what it's going to do and the excitement around what it will do. But what I'd like to do is maybe focus a little more on the other side of things, which is what I believe our conference is named, which is the human side, human centricity, keeping humans not only in the loop, as Matthias told us earlier, but rather humans at the center of it. That's what centricity means, right? So when we're thinking about these things and when we're looking at how to get the most not only out of our systems, but out of the most out of our humans, firstly, maybe we should use another word than humans. What about people? What about our team? What about customer, agent, right? So much of the way that we approach the future and the clarity that we want from it comes from being able to use the right language, being able to communicate in the right way, in the most effective way that helps us to still get the results that we want. So today, I'm going to be speaking about the kinds of things that are very passionate to what I do, the things that get me up in the morning and has led me to work with startups, with organizations around the world, specifically storytelling and clear communication and community building. And you'll see as we go that these two things are very much interlinked. They're part of the same skills area where I think the future of customer success and successful customer experience teams are going to be moving. Because as AI and other transformative technologies are going to be making life easier, taking away the heavy lifting, automating workflows, allowing us to not have to retain so much information, what we're doing is we're also kind of saying to our teams that we're going to allow them to focus on the human touch, right? We're going to allow them to provide that irreplaceable experience. And so I can imagine, as many of you sitting here today, tomorrow you're going to be going back to many of your teams, and they're going to be asking you, hey, what did you learn? What happened? How are you going to make life better for us? And you might just only talk about AI and what AI is going to be doing, but you might leave out the part that they're going to really want to sort of focus on, which is how does it make their roles easier and how can they be performing in the very best way that's good for you, good for them, and good for their customer. And I believe that means moving them in the direction of becoming advisors, of relationship owners, of master communicators and storytellers and community builders. So my name is Alex. As Maria beautifully said earlier, I'm from South Africa originally, but I live in Spain. I'm a dad of 3. I've started 4 different businesses. I love Indian food. And I really like going for walks in nature and long road trips. But I'm also a big fan of these particular topics. And like I said, this is what has led me to work with organizations around the world in helping them to build better relationships with their customers, empower their teams, and also make space for what technology and all of the good things that technology can bring to them. So let's focus on the first one, storytelling. And when I talk about storytelling, it's something that we're actually all really good at. We're all experts at it. We should be. We've been doing it for more than 70 or 80,000 years since the early humans were able to start, communicating with each other. Watch out, there's a predator there. I've found fire, let's go find food. You know, we use the ability to communicate as a way to stay alive, stay together, but we also tell stories to each other. And we tell stories to each other because we have to make sense of the world around us. And that's a key thing, right? We do it all the time. We're good at telling stories. We're good at listening to stories. I'm particularly good at telling stories to my wife, even though she might not always like to hear them. The point is that it's a part of our DNA, and it's part of what we do as human beings. It's a very natural human ability. Now, if you can think about that particular scene, just for a moment, cast your eyes on there, it's very much part of a ritual of what human beings do, and what only humans do, right, so far, unless there's other life on other planets, but that's for another conference for sure. But the point is that when we tell stories, we do it together. We do it in community, right? In order to have a story, in order to be communicating, you need another person, right? That's the basis for a conversation. It's a two-way or sometimes a many-way exchange. And when we think of communication like this and what a role it plays in building businesses, building relationships, raising kids, you know, saving the planet, whatever it might be, we rely on communication and good, effective, clear communication so much, more than you could possibly imagine. And the way to really make that work in the best way is to bring people together, is to allow it to bring people together. That's how many of the greatest stories were told. Case in point, ancient Greece. We don't need to think too far. 3,000 years ago, some of the best stories ever came from this area, as you may well know. At the same time, in the modern context, we're still storytellers, we're still communicating, we're still listening in, but we're doing it in a different way now. There's been a lot of talk so far in this event about omnichannel, about making sure that there's multiple touch points between customers when we can, you know, be able to listen to whatever they might want to be complaining about, or, you know, take a question from them, help them with supporting them on a particular issue. We can do that in a number of different ways, and we're always available everywhere at any time. There's a cost to that. The cost to that is that we're sitting on the tube or the train or the bus, and we're constantly fragmented. The attention that we're trying to capture all the time is getting harder and harder and harder to do. And so when we think about technology, technology does bring many beautiful benefits. I won't list them. We've done that today at the event, and I'm sure that's something that you guys are all still thinking about. But it also, the way to think about it is that it is a multiplier. It allows us to think about the productivity that we can get, the gains, the reduction in costs, the ability to automate workflows, the ability to make things more efficient, cheaper, better, faster. It means that we're making those good things even better, but it also has the potential to make some of the areas that we don't know about, the areas that we're unsure about, potentially worse or more uncertain. And nobody likes uncertainty, right? And so what do? You didn't come to this event to hear me say that things are uncertain and maybe you should panic. No, you should absolutely not panic, because the answer comes not so much from the technology itself, no matter what the technology is. Technology is always something that's going to help us to leverage what we are already good at doing. What we are already good at doing, and what I believe customers and businesses and your audiences really continue to want, is that human edge, is the human touch. We've spoken a little bit about that today. The human element in these conversations that we're having. And so it's always good to be able to put these really positive predictions that we're looking at on the table, but also balance that with some sober realism, right? We want to be able to leverage AI, leverage the technologies in front of us to make our businesses better, our people happier, but we also don't want to be able to completely replace what we think the customer wants from us, right? So what am I saying? I'm saying here that everything that we're doing, everything that we're learning, everything that you are about to go and implement in the next few weeks with your teams, with your businesses, needs to be something that doubles down, that reinforces the human skills that are implicit within your teams, the things that are going to make customers come back. It's great that we have algorithms that are going to be able to put recommended purchases just at the right time, just when you need it. But if we're completely thinking that we can replace the human element in some way, then we're potentially kidding ourselves. So when I talk about storytelling, storytelling is one of those key, in fact, in my opinion, the most important elements in that basket of human skills. And when I say storytelling, I mean communication. I mean something that allows a customer to understand their own context, understand the decisions they have to make in front of them. It also allows them to make sense of information. That's what we do when we tell stories, when we communicate, right? We have to make sense of information, and certainly today, there's no shortage of information. We're constantly trying to make sense of information, right? And based on that, we're trying to make decisions, make smart decisions, right? And so when you're thinking about communication, when you're thinking about empowering your teams to be able to tell stories, to use examples, and we're going to go into some practicals in a moment on how to do that, it's good to think about it as a core skill that cuts across your entire organization. It's the branding. It's the customer experience. It is what powers your sales team. It's what gives your marketing life. It is what draws people to want to work with you. It's what gives you purpose. It's what excites investors. Hey, we all want to do that, right? We all have to be able to be competent, and I would argue very good at this particular level. And so storytelling is that core human skill that I think puts us right at the center of where we need to be looking and how we're using technologies like AI. How can we completely transform the customer's experience by also helping our agents and our teams and the people who are providing that support experience in a way that allows them to leverage those human skills in a practical way. We've heard a lot today about, not missing out the human element, and a lot of attention on AI, which is great. But at the same time, just like when you are going to go back to your teams tomorrow, you've got to be able to also give them something to be able to be hopeful for, to give them a sense of, okay, my career can develop in a certain way. I can continue to invest in myself and my own skills that makes me irreplaceable. So that's the human part. And those are the questions that I think we can't leave on the side of the table. So good storytelling allows us to make sense of information. It allows us to solve problems. That's really what it is. When I speak to clients all the time, my first definition always is storytelling is problem solving in action, right? It allows us to realize something different about our situation through good, clear communication. Perhaps we're using an example. Perhaps we're allowing somebody to respond to questions that we're asking. And as a result, they can think about their problem, their challenge, the thing that they're trying to do in a different way. And when we're thinking in a different way, new possibilities present themselves. And so that is what the very best customer advisors, the best customer relationship people, they know this. They know how to help people to change the mindset, to change the focus so that their customers experience different results, right? And this is where your customer success teams, as investments in themselves, need to be focused on. Because when we do that, we can help customers to have an emotional response. We can help them to feel differently about how they perceive your brand. The next time they book an airline ticket, the next time they call your support team when the phone line isn't working, the water isn't working, I didn't get my reservation on time. If we're able to communicate clearly and empower the people who are on those front lines, then a customer can feel differently about how that went. It's not just an automated process, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's about empowering somebody else to help to, excuse me, to help to make a customer feel differently. Because we remember how we feel, don't we? We don't always remember information. In fact, we're actually quite bad at remembering information, right? But we're really good at remembering how we feel. What stood out for me in the very first talk that we had, Elias was on screen, we all remember the postcard, don't we? The postcard part where those vests didn't arrive on time. and somebody sent a postcard, a handwritten postcard. I don't think there was any AI involved in that, unless you can train AI to have really bad handwriting, no offense. But at the same time, it's those sorts of experiences that really do feel human and aren't human-like. They're human because it was done by a human. And that's where we need to focus, okay? So really, whatever business you're in, if you're in telecommunications, if you're in insurance, retail, airlines, I know that there's a nice cross-section of different industries in the room, which is wonderful. Really, the business you're in is helping to get customers to where they need to be. And we do that by empowering our advisors to advise them on new things, on new information, coming to new conclusions so that they are able to, actually, that's the kind of thing that I should be doing. I really should be taking that option. Thank you. You've helped me to see my situation in a different light today. So you've helped them approach their problem in a different way, which means that the loyalty that you're seeking, the good satisfaction metric, the return rate, all of these things are going to take care of themselves. There's absolutely a role for AI in that, of course, but we can't ignore the fact that somewhere along the line, if we're keeping a human in the loop, that human has to perform and do a good job, right? A lot of the time, there's a focus on, well, we're taking all of these things away. Don't worry about automation. Workflow, absolutely, no problem. We'll do this. We'll do all these things. You just focus on the human element. You just focus on empathy. Be empathetic, right? It's how do you do that, right? So we've got to think about these things in certain ways that allows our customer success teams to actually step into that role and allow them to do different things. Because when we do different things, we can expect different results, okay? So storytelling is how. Storytelling is how we do it. It's one of the key skills, like communication, that we can be investing in. Empathy is another one. Smart decision-making is another one. Creative thinking is another one. There's many, many different parts. But really where we're going with this is being able to help to, over the longer run, empower our customer advisors to actually form communities around what they're doing and the good work that they're doing. And I'm going to speak a little bit more about how to start empowering your teams with the building blocks of what you need to be doing to build communities, which is different to building an audience or building a customer relationship. They're comprised of relationships, but building a community requires different kinds of skills, different sorts of sensibilities at the same time, and we'll get into that. But first, I'd like to give you some practical elements of how to think about storytelling, how to think about good communication skills. Because tomorrow, when you're going back to your teams, I want you to be able to give them some easy, practical pointers on what to start putting into practice right now. Tanya told us earlier that 70% of what you do and how it becomes successful is all about implementation. You learn by doing, right? You can have all the greatest conferences and smart speakers with long hair and great courses that allow you to learn things, but if you're not practicing those things, they're going to zero, right? So it's all about putting these things into practical terms. And when I speak to people about this, I always tell them that you've got to be tending to your crops. CROPS, these 5 areas, tending to your crops. And when we tend to our crops, it's like a garden, right? When we are able to water our garden, it comes back to us. It bears delicious fruit, doesn't it? That's why there's that expression, the best time to build a tree, 10 years ago. The second best time is today or tomorrow when you go back to your offices, start planting. The first one is C. It's for clarity, right? We need to keep our messaging, whether it's in an email, whether it's the way that the customer success team greets people on the phone, whether it might be the way that you are managing relationships with clients, you've got to keep things short and clear. When your messaging is short and clear, it's simple, and it stays relevant. It stays relevant to where they are right now. That's the thing. We've got to meet people where they are. We can talk about the future. We can talk about how lovely things are going to be in 5, 6, 7 years. We can talk about how incredible things were in the past. Don't we always do that? But if someone's got an order that they're missing and they're pissed off about it and they need something done now, we've got to be able to respond quickly and clearly with the information that they need so that they don't do something silly, like put the phone down or throw something at us. That's never good. So whatever you do in your communications and your messaging internally as well, try and keep what you do to the point, simple and clear, because the true value of what you're trying to get across should be quite simple to express. It should be quite clear-cut, right? There's no need for going into more detail, the kinds of things that are unnecessary. Keep it clear, keep it straightforward. What you're also doing at the same time is you're stopping the scroll. That's something that I like to talk to my clients about as well. When you stop the scroll, remember that image that we had earlier with those people on their phone and kind of not really paying attention? If you stop the scroll, that means that you've made them think twice. That means that something here has allowed me to get what I need. It's arrested my attention. And when you arrest my attention, you have my attention, right? So if you're able to communicate clearly, your authenticity, the person I'm really speaking to, the conversation I'm having with that advisor comes through. And that's what I'm seeking. That's what I'm seeking. I don't need more ChatGPT summaries. I need a human being to talk to. That's what people are seeking right now, right? So we've got to give it to them. Like the guys have said previously before me, we've got to be able to give people what they want, where they want it. And being clear is the first big step to doing that. Then we've got to align on a rhythm, right? If you're creating content, if you're nurturing customers, if you're sending them email newsletters, whatever your content and your communications are, you've got to be able to find a rhythm and a format that works for you. Is it something that allows you to send out a weekly newsletter, perhaps a monthly vlog, a video? Perhaps it's something that allows you to nurture them through a series of LinkedIn messages. Who knows what it is? But it's something that allows you to stay consistent in the long run. Consistency is the root of all great branding. So if you can be consistent and stick to a particular format and align your team as well, get your team on board, get them to reshare content, get them on board with the tone and the clarity that you're wanting to see in those messages for your customers. And of course, the social value is important. What do I mean by social value? Well, people buy from people, don't they? And when we're able to hear about how Jonathan over there, he bought a PlayStation from that store and he had a great experience, well, I'm going to trust Jonathan's review, right? I'm going to want to be like Jonathan. And so the social value, the testimonials, the case studies that you can bring to the story you tell is absolutely important. In fact, sometimes it's more important than what you could be saying. There's an expression in English, from the horse's mouth, which means literally from the person who you want to be hearing from, right? So if you've got great customer stories, customers who are happy and loyal and can't wait to work with you again, put them in the front, champion them. And that's something that we're going to come back to in the community building as well. Order. So I used to work with a blockchain company based in Zug, in Switzerland. And they had this crazy thing where their deck and their investor communication was just from page one. It was, here's how it works, and and diagrams, and oh my God, what's going on here? I don't understand anything. And that's because they weren't controlling the flow and order of information in the way that is sensible and understandable for a client, right? Sometimes a client just wants to know, can you just tell me where that widget is? Can you just help me with this? So we've got to be able to prioritize what someone wants to hear. What are they seeking? Instead of just sending them information. How often have we had that, right? You just get emails and emails or attachments of things that you'll never read and don't care about. You're not helping me. So if you can control the flow and the order of information based on what I'm looking for, what you're really doing there is you're removing the friction. You're taking away the pain of me trying to find the information I actually need, which might only be that part in and amongst all of that, right? It makes sense. It also gives people a great impression of what it's like to work with you because you're helping to simplify my chaos, right? Think about that. Simplify my chaos. You're helping me to make sense of my situation. There can be no greater superpower in customer success than helping clients to simplify their chaos, right? That's what it's like. That's what it's like to work with you. What a great impression to be able to set for your clients. Then P, personal, keeping it personal. Now, some of this may apply to some of you more than others, depending on what you do and how you handle your customers, the businesses that you're in. But if you're in the kind of businesses that rely on long-term relationships where you've got key account managers and you've got account directors who are directly involved in owning and growing relationships, then you will know that it's not about selling anymore, right? It's about retaining the interest and the long-term objectives in mind. And the way that we do that is by focusing on problem solving. What is the next problem on your roadmap that we should be paying attention to? We talked a lot about being proactive earlier today as well. This is how we're proactive. You ask questions. You try and brainstorm with them. What kind of problems should we be paying attention to tomorrow? Not just today, but tomorrow. Once again, setting that impression that allows you to position themselves next to them, to be an advisor to where they need to be, to make that roadmap that they're on more clear and more possible to achieve. And where possible, make it personal. Put your own story into it. Perhaps there's an anecdote or an experience that you've had or part of your company has had that allows you to be able to relate to your customer and lets them feel like they're not on their own, like you're on their side. What's the word for that? Empathy, right? We're talking about empathy. That's a good tip, right? Empathy is being able to feel what somebody else feels, right? Not feel for them, but feel what they feel. And we do that by telling stories and telling true stories. So if you've got a story next time where you can relate to a customer and it can help you to build a bridge between them, do it. Don't hold back. You'll thank yourself later. And then the last one, crops. The last one is simplify. This is my favorite one. When we keep it simple, we keep it clear. Don't use jargon. Don't use words that you won't even know how to spell in 2 months' time. The buzzwords, the jargon, the crazy technical terminology, it's not what a customer wants, unless they tell you it's what they want. Then you can use it. But keeping things simple allows them to see exactly what they have in mind and see exactly where they need to be. And it also allows them to appreciate complexity, sophistication. If you have a technical tool, or if you have something that requires a little bit of technical attention, it's okay for that to be complex, but it doesn't have to be complicated. And the way that we communicate that, the simplicity and the clarity, allows that to be, you can appreciate it without needing to get stuck into it. It's a beautiful Olympic-sized swimming pool, but I don't have to get wet. I don't have to jump in, right? You've got to meet people where they are with the kind of language they're using, with the kinds of things they're looking for. And simplicity is always going to be a tool that you can use. And this doesn't only apply to communication. This can be the way you approach your processes, the way that you handle internal meetings. Keeping things simple reduces the amount of error, reduces the amount of uncertainty in a system, right? So simplicity as a philosophy, I implore you to get into. So last couple minutes, while you're all soaking that in, I want to be able to speak a little bit about building community. So earlier on I said storytelling is how, human skills is how we're going to be evolving the role of customer success in the age of AI. But community building is really where it's going to be going. The focus of your best accounts and customer success people should be on building community, because that's where they're going to be. And until AI can help us to do that, may still happen, who knows? But until it can, then this needs to be the focus of your best people, building community. And what do I mean by that? It's the kind of word that's thrown around quite a lot, isn't it? So firstly, it's good to appreciate the difference between an audience or traditional customer relationships and a community, right? An audience is many to one. It's me standing on a stage right now and giving you a message. Boom, right? You are my audience, okay? Until later, that doesn't become a two-way interaction, right? And so that is, in many ways, how a lot of businesses are set up. They're used to just giving you content, giving you messages, giving you what you need, and it's a one-way interaction. Until recently, we haven't really been able to build feedback into that. But at the same time, even though we're getting feedback from customers, we're looking at metrics, we're having AI help us to understand what the customer wants. Yes, that is two-way, but the flow of information is still one way. And that's where a community is different. A community empowers different individuals to be in community together, which means that if I know Tanya, I know George, I know Matthias, I know Vasilis, but they also know each other. And they also have commonalities between them, which means that it's not just my opinion that matters, but it's hers, it's yours, it's yours. Everyone else gets involved in the conversation, and we get involved to be able to share best practices. We get involved to share what's working for you. Actually, you know what? That didn't work for me, but I tried this and it worked really well. Thank you, Alex. Awesome. I'm going to try that tomorrow. And so we can leverage knowledge and we can leverage learnings much more effectively when everybody knows each other in the community. And there's different ways to be able to do that. But the most important difference to appreciate here is that it's all about being able to interact independently of each other, directly to each other. Otherwise, that's also called a network effect, right? Oh, sorry. This is what I do with my business, Humble Mind, by the way. We're a social learning company that takes human skills and puts them for discussion and debate and participation in a community format, right? When we're allowing people to jump onto a Zoom call, but nobody's allowed to be on mute. Got to have your cameras on. Got to have your cameras on, and your voice matters, your participation matters. Building customer-oriented communities like this is where I believe the next generation of advisors really needs to go. Because not only are you learning so much from your people, but you're building those key personal relationships that go beyond the immediate business setting in a very, very, very effective way. And everyone is getting a chance to network. Everyone is getting a chance to learn from each other. So instead of learning from one person, I can learn and interact with 50 people or 10 people. Doesn't really matter what the size is. It's the multiplication of the knowledge of the human knowledge that's at stake. So I've got 2 minutes, 45 seconds. So I'm gonna run through this quickly. And I'm sure this will be available separately. So please download this deck, or you can get in touch directly if you want to speak about this more. But here's a couple of quick pointers on how to begin building a community. Building communities consisting of your customers, of your best relationships, and how to give them that extra value, that extra edge that they're not getting from their other competitors, because you're awesome and you're doing it here, right? So first you form an inner circle. Who are those top 5, 10, 20, 25 people, those customers who you own good relationships with, solid, loyal relationships? Get them in a room, invite them, interview them, ask them questions, record the interview. Why not? Record it. Record the interview and get them speaking to you. Think about it like a podcast. Get them speaking to you about the kinds of things that they sit in front of every day, the kinds of challenges they're trying to get right, the kinds of things that, this is just not happening for me. I need help here. What you're doing there is you're creating content, firstly, but you're also allowing people to have a voice and to be heard. And then you're using the community as a way to table that, to have a forum around those particular issues. And what's going to happen? Something magical is going to happen. Your garden is going to start sprouting because other people are going to be saying, you know what? I've had the same problem. Here's how we had it. Here's what we tried to do. Here's what worked for us. And so you're starting to sprout these beautiful little conversations between each other, and you don't necessarily have to be there all the time to start it. And that is the essence of great community building. And the greatest people at the top, if you think of Nike, Adidas, Coke, Pepsi, think those guys are competing against each other? No. That's maybe what the branding externally says. That's maybe what the clever video ads have us believe. But the real ones at the top know how to collaborate. They're not competing, they're collaborating. They're helping each other out to maintain and grow market share. And that's what a community helps you to do. It helps you to stay stronger together because you're sharing ideas rather than thinking of everyone else as competitors, as people that you need to be getting out of the way, rather than welcoming them into the conversation and having them part of what you're trying to build together. Pick a rhythm, pick a medium, pick a space. Pick a channel that allows you to build this community. Sometimes it works well on WhatsApp. Sometimes it's an email. Sometimes it's a community space. Sometimes it's the ability to meet in person as a live in-person event once a month, once a week, once every few years. Look at this community of people. We are in community together here because we have a particular topic in mind. We're all similar. We're able to double down on those similarities, and we are a community. We're not just a bunch of people who've shown up in Athens for a day, but we're here to work together on a particular topic together. And that is what makes us a community. The best part of our community is that you don't need to be selling. You don't need to sell anything to anybody. We're all on the same page. We're all here for the same reason. And once you have collaborative conversations that will begin to sprout as a result of these ingredients, opportunities will come. Opportunities will naturally come as a result of these things happening. The thing that also finally holds the best communities together is that there's a sense of trust and a sense of safety. Now, this is where the work that I do with Humble Mind and with other businesses as well really gets interesting, because the best communities don't just trade ideas and focus on what's happening at work. The best communities meet at the intersection between personal and professional development. And that is where, over time, I encourage you to start pushing your advisors, your customer success teams to start thinking, how can I take care of my customer not only based on what their next order should be, but what are their needs? And am I really considering what their needs are? Because now I'm actually starting to get to know this person. And when I know this person, I understand how he thinks, I understand the decisions he makes or she makes. And as a result, I can help them, I can influence them because they trust me, because they feel safe around me, because we've had conversations that are important. So these are some of the building blocks that I really encourage you to think about deeply when it comes to what is that next stage of your business. We've spoken a lot today about the beautiful wonders of AI and what it's going to bring to our businesses. But I wanted to also give you something practical to give to your teams in the weeks and months ahead for them to think, actually, you know what? Hell no. AI is not going to be taking my job away. I'm needed. I'm needed here. And I'm needed here for a good reason, because I need to help this business strengthen its communication channels, and as a result, build community and be able to strengthen the relationships that keep this business going, right? That's where they need to be. That's what grows market share. That's what differentiates you in the face of your competitors, by being able to have those relationships with your customers go to the next level, the very next level. Storytelling is how we do that. Community is why we're doing that. We want to be in community with the people that we spend time with, that we work with. How many of us have had client relationships that you've known for 20, 30 years, right? Community is a chance to be able to welcome them into a circle where they have a place. You can find out more about what I do at alexsearle.com and check out humblemind.co as well, because this is the kind of thing that I live and breathe, and I'm very excited to speak about. I hope that made sense. I hope that gave you not only things to think about, but also some things to put into action, because action is where it matters. Thank you.
We have questions. Again, the super glasses, you know, I get the super glasses in order to see how how can a brand engage the audience in meaningful community interaction. Any specific examples of such practice?
Yeah.
Good. This too is for you.
Okay. All right. Okay, great. How can a brand engage the audience in meaningful community interaction? Any specific examples of such practices? Yeah, absolutely. So I can't remember which presentation it was, but there was the mention of HubSpot and I think Slack as well, and a couple of a lot of technology companies are really doing this very, very well, where there's a few ingredients that they're throwing into building their customer communities. Firstly, they've got a lot of customers, and they've got happy customers. So make sure you've got that first one, some happy customers, some loyal customers. Then they are directly involving them in helping them to build their product. So it's not just about what did you think of the last thing that I shipped you, but rather how can I learn more about what you really want and what other customers like you are wanting so that I can interview you and I can have a conversation where you're helping me to get better. So being able to be open and honest with the fact that, hey, we're actually really wanting to improve our services. We want to get more customers like you. Will you help us? Chances are customers will say yes. So I think that having their help and asking for help directly from your community members, from your customers, will not only help you, but it's going to help to pay back to them in dividends, because they're going to get those meaningful experiences that they want, which will mean that they stick around. So being open with them, saying what you want and asking for help directly from your customers, your best relationships, I promise you, they will help you.
The second is this.
Okay, the next one,
Yes.
should I read it?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
of course.
The more we expand technology, the frontiers, the more eagerly we seek for the human touch. Yes. Is this resistance to change or the human archetype kicking in? Oof. Who asked that? Wow. How much time you got? Wow. More eagerly we seek for the human touch. Okay, yeah.
But we cannot find the one that he asked next.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. Well, I'm in the right country, yeah. Yes, it is a resistance to change, absolutely. I think we all have that when we're talking about human skills and our ability to tell stories. That's 70,000 years old. What's also just as old is are the kinds of impulses and instincts that make us fear or reject something because we don't understand it, because we're not sure of what it might bring for us. We're not convinced of the results that it can deliver, that it's good for us. And so anything that sounds anything like that, we're going to be like that. We're going to be resistant to, we're not going to be wanting to be open to. So I think that knowledge is power. As a very short answer to this, and I'd love to talk to whoever wrote this in more detail later, but as a short answer to that, I think that the more we can have open conversations, once again, open communication with your customers and with your teams, the better we can understand these kinds of difficult questions together. Because if we share knowledge, everyone gets empowered. And that's, once again, the beauty of doing it in a community forum, because when you're doing that amongst 10, 20, 50 people, everyone gets that net result of that many more diverse perspectives. So yes, resistance to change, there's various different human archetypes there. I think there's 12 archetypes. Okay, I'm going to stop here, but there's a lot to say on it. But yeah, I think knowledge is power. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.